of the two senas continue in Maharashtra. After the name and the symbol, the Shiva Sena offices are now on Eknath Shinde's radar. His leaders have already taken over the Shiva Sena office inside the Maharashtra Assembly, and logically the next step would be the party offices spread across the state, some of them in prime locations as well. The Uddhav camp, meanwhile, is in damage control mode. They have filed a plea in the Supreme Court seeking to stay the Election Commission's order. But the request for an urgent hearing has been denied. Earlier today, Uddhav Thackeray ripped into the Election Commission. He said if the decision was invalid and the entire Election Commission panel should be sacked as they are selected and not elected. Listen in to what Mr. Thackeray had to say.
अगर चुनाव आयोग जिसको कहा जाता है वो ही अगर उसकी नियुक्ति की जाए तो चुनाव आयोग कहाँ का, इसलिए मैं कहता हूं कि वो बर्खास्त करना चाहिए। हमारा विश्वास बिल्कुल नहीं है और जो भी सुनवाई है सुप्रीम कोर्ट में होनी चाहिए। चुनाव आयोग ने 2 गुट को मान्यता दी, 2 गुट को अलग अलग नाम दिए गए, अलग अलग चिन्ह दिए गए और हालांकि जो मैं बात कह रहा हूं कि ऐसे आज तक कभी हुआ नहीं कि जो मूल चिन्ह और जो नाम रहता है वो किसी एक गुट को दिया नहीं गया। हमारी अपेक्षा यही थी कि जो चिन्ह हमें दिया है उनको जो चिन्ह दिया है जब तक सुप्रीम कोर्ट में फैसला नहीं होता है तब तक चुनाव आयोग अपना निर्णय ना सुनाए। लेकिन अब 2 गुट को उन्होंने मान्यता दी है। हमारा गुट अलग है, उनका अलग है। हमारा नाम और चिन्ह थोड़े दिन के लिए सही मैं मानता हूं, हमने तो उसको चुनौती दी है, उनके पास रहेगा। इसका मतलब ये नहीं कि उनका व्हिप हम पे चलेगा। हम तो जहां थे वही हैं, घर के बाहर वो गए हैं, तो वो डिस्क्वालीफाई होने की संभावना अधिक है।
Earlier today, Uddhav faction MP Sanjay Raut claimed that the Shinde Sena had purchased the Shiva Sena party name and its bow and arrow symbol in a 2,000 crore deal. However, these charges have not been mentioned in the plea.
तरीही आम्ही लोकांना हे दाखवतोय, हे देशाला आम्ही दाखवू इच्छितो की सत्य आणि न्यायाची बाजू ही कशी डावलली जाते। मी काल स्पष्ट सांगितलं आणि मी पुन्हा रिपीट करतो की चिन्ह आणि पक्षाचं नाव यासाठी 2000 कोटीचा सौदा झाला, व्यवहार झाला। हे मी कालही सांगितलं, आजही सांगितलं आणि निकाल लागण्याची प्रक्रिया सुरू होती आणि ज्या वेळेला स्वतः देवेंद्र फडणवीस सांगत होते की निकाल आपल्याच बाजूने।
And my colleagues Abhishek and Radhika are joining me from Mumbai to get us more updates on the story. A very good evening to both of you, Radhika and Abhishek. And we can imagine it's been a busy days as the Sena versus Sena war has escalated. My first question will go across to you, Radhika. What exactly do we know about the plan forward for the Uddhav camp? Because clearly, as of now, he looks like the one having a step back in his political ambition. It is an embarrassment. It is a setback. What lies ahead for the Uddhav camp?
You know, as far as Uddhav camp is concerned, as you rightly pointed out, this is a blow for them. This is a huge setback, a huge disappointment for the entire Uddhav group. Now, plan of action, we know for a fact that over the last 2 days, there had been series of meetings that Uddhav Thackeray took along with the remaining MLAs, the remaining MPs, as well as several workers and also the cadres. We saw the speech yesterday in which he was trying to mobilize as many cadres as possible, trying to boost their confidence. Today, he took a press conference in which obviously he leveled several allegations against the Election Commission as well, stating that it acted in a very unfair and biased manner, and also that Election Commission should be dissolved entirely. So these are some of the reactions we got from Uddhav Thackeray. Plan of action, well, one is of course the legal recourse that it is trying to take as far as the entire plea is concerned. Of course, that could be heard tomorrow. That will be mentioned, of course, challenging the EC's order. Remains to be seen whether Uddhav group will get any sort of interim relief from the Supreme Court. That is something, that is one of the, biggest actions that they have taken in terms of getting a relief. Secondly, of course, mobilizing the cadres, mobilizing the crowd, mobilizing Sainiks across the state of Maharashtra to send a message across, to launch as many protests as possible, to send a message across to people of Maharashtra that Eknath Shinde is a thief, is a liar. Eknath Shinde group, are a bunch of thieves. This is something that everybody within the Uddhav clan had been reiterating. So launching massive protests across the state of Maharashtra, mobilizing the cadres, mobilizing the crowd is something that the Uddhav group will be doing, taking to the streets to ensure that they get as much support as possible. But more importantly, to try and get that legal recourse, to try and get some sort of legal relief, which at this point looks highly unlikely, because in the last stage, as far as the disqualification plea is concerned, Supreme Court did not refuse to give some sort of relief to Uddhav Thackeray when it came to referring the matter to a larger bench and so on. So remains to be seen how this will be taken up legally. At this point, of course, Uddhav Thackeray, in a very, bad position at the moment, but taking all the series of meetings, press conferences, mobilizing the cadres and so on, and also at the same time stating that whatever Eknath Shinde has done, whatever EC has done, is completely unconstitutional. The order that it has come up with is completely unconstitutional, undemocratic and biased, is something that Uddhav group has been time and again reiterating.
Well, absolutely, Radhika. And let me take that question across to Abhishek now. And like Radhika was mentioning, that Uddhav Thackeray is doing everything in his capacity. He's holding press conferences, he's holding closed-door meetings, he's meeting the party karyakarta, all to keep their flock together and ensure this is a confidence-building exercise, that all is not lost. Let's wait for the Supreme Court judgment. Having said that, the logical outcome of the bow and arrow symbol being given to the Shinde faction and the name being attributed to the Shinde faction, it is only fair for them to take charge of these offices of Shiva Sena. What lies ahead then? Where exactly will we be seeing Uddhav's camp being housed at? And also, what are the modus operandi of the the Shinde camp now to overtake these offices in Maharashtra?
See, it is very important to note, because after the Election Commission allotting the original name and the symbol to Shinde camp, they are in a very confident mode right now. Because let me point out one thing here. There are several Shivsenic MLAs, MP, who were still confused either to switch side, either to be with Uddhav or switch with Eknath Shinde. And definitely after this important order, this is where for both the faction it is important. Shinde faction will definitely try to pull all those MLAs, MPs, ground workers or grassroots leaders to the real Shiva Sena, that they will claim that Election Commission has recognized us, now you are part of us now. This is what they're doing since morning. First they went to the Vidhan Bhavan and they stake claim over the Shiva Sena's official the party office in the Vidhan Bhavan, and they took the permission of the speaker. Later they went towards the BMC and took over the official the party place at the BMC, and this is what they're doing. What we're also coming to know from the sources is, for the next step, tomorrow in the evening, Eknath Shinde will be holding a national executive of the Shiva Sena, where he has called for all the MLAs, MP and grassroots leaders who are in his camp and also who are from the from the Uddhav camp. So they will be coming over there, and he will be addressing, and most likely he will be convening an election, an organizational election within the party. See, Shinde camp is going by the decision of Election Commission of India, that they have been recognized as the original Shiva Sena and taking all the legal course, in fact the internal party elections, as well as taking claim over
and we shall wait to see whether legally Election Commission's order is going to be binding once the Supreme Court pronounces that judgment. Thank you, Radhika and Abhishek, for joining us with all those details. But I'm also joined by Rajya Sabha MP from Shiva Sena, Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi, here with me. Ms. Chaturvedi, thank you for joining us here at Mirror Now and taking out your precious time as we discuss a Sena versus Sena war here, which has only escalated after the Election Commission having attributed the bow and arrow symbol and the name to the Shinde faction. My first question to you, Ms. Chaturvedi, will be, what lies ahead for the Uddhav camp? Of course, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray is doing everything possible in his capacity, carrying out press conferences, holding meetings, meeting the Karyakarta to keep his flock together and as a confidence-building exercises. But as far as legally speaking and politically, what lies ahead?
What lies ahead is, challenging this decision by the Election Commission in the Supreme Court. Supreme Court also is the upholder of constitution, constitutional morality, democratic principles. At a time when we are seeing all institutions being undermined because of this totalitarian centralization of power, at a time when judiciary also is in conflict with the government, where you see the law minister also make unwanted, unfounded comments about the judiciary. This will be I would say, the vanguard of safeguarding the constitution. Now, coming to the Election Commission decision. The Election Commission decision goes against the very ethos of the constitution of the 10th schedule. It goes against the principles laid down by the 10th schedule, and it goes against what is already being discussed by a constitution bench in the Supreme Court. And we are going to fight this out. In the Election Commission decision comes across as a decision already taken, and then finding reasons as to why this decision was taken. First, as far as they speak about the test of majority. Test of majority cannot purely be on the basis of legislative majority. It has to be on the basis of organizational majority. Overwhelming number of organizational office bearers, as well as primary members, as well as national office bearers, are with Shri Uddhav Thackeray. Now, the second part about legislative strength. Legislative strength is being deemed on the basis of the MLAs and MPs that have gone along with Mr. Shinde. That is the legislative strength on the basis of which they have taken this decision. And they give you the Sadiq Ali one, Sadiq Ali case as an example. I'll tell you why it is irrelevant here. Now, in this case, there is a Supreme Court hearing going on and is sub judice with regards to suspension of 16 of those MLAs on the basis of which legislative strength has been decided. CJ Ramana, Chief Justice Ramana, before his retirement, had said Election Commission can continue to its conversation and its interrogation and investigation, but it cannot take a decision till the time Supreme Court does not hear the disqualification plea of our faction. So that is point 2. Now, point 3, 10th schedule, they have given a reason that there is a split in the party. Till 2003, split was a valid argument as per the constitution. But anti-defection law was modified, and anti-defection law does not recognize a party split. It only if two-third of the majority of the legislative strength has shown, loss of confidence in the leadership, they can very well merge into another party or form their own party. And once they form their own party, they have to get re-elected. To escape all of that, Election Commission, in a very hurried manner, has handed it over, which will be challenged in the Supreme Court and will not stand scrutiny of any court of law in India. But that is if ideally constitutional principles are followed.
But Ms. Chaturvedi, what do you make of these posturing that is happening from the Shinde camp of taking over of the Shiva Sena offices? It definitely does percolate down to the lowest common denominator, which is essentially your party Karyakarta. It is an emotional moment as well for Uddhav Thackeray because he is trying everything possible in the handbook to appropriate the legacy of Balasaheb Thackeray. But these tactics that are being used by the Shinde faction, that is also going to have an impression upon the party Karyakartas and people at large.
So, if you look at people at large, there is overwhelming support for Shri Uddhav Thackeray. And I don't say it because I'm a party worker. I say it because we have seen the Andheri East by-poll, where we contested on a new symbol, where we contested on a new party name, and we won more votes as compared to the 2019 elections in this by-poll. So if you look at the MLC elections, Mahavikas Agadi going into elections across the state, the numbers have spoken for itself. So that's people's mandate. That's one. The second part about organization cadre. Organization cadre, through its affidavit support, over 20 lakh primary members' affidavits were handed over to the election commission, totally bypassed and ignored by the election commission. Over 2 lakh office bearers, that's close to 3 lakh office bearer affidavits handed over to the election commission, while zero went from Eknath Shinde faction, totally bypassed by the election commission. 10 schedule makes it very clear that political party and legislative party are two separate bodies. And political party is above the legislative party because it consists of its party cadre, party office bearers, not just those who are elected. And who are these elected people? These are elected on the basis of party workers working hard to make you win under the party symbol and under the leadership of Uddhav Thackeray. So going by, if you look at the 77-page report, it
Agreed,
clearly
Ms.
shows,
Chaturvedi.
and the words used. Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, agreed, Mr. Chaturvedi, like you're making a point over there. But what happens when your situation right now is still under a lot of ambiguity? And then when a whip is issued, they of course want both you and Sanjay Raut to fall in line, and all the MLAs from the Uddhav faction also to fall in line by issuing the whip. As of now, you do not have a separate political party per se. There is still ambiguity. A lot hangs in balance over here. That is the reason why I'm asking you, what is the fate forward?
Whatever the fate may be, whatever constitutional morality may be, if we leave everything aside, if the country has decided that we believe in this kind of totalitarianism, where our election commission can also bend backwards to support the government, our ED can do that, and for that matter, Enforcement Directorate headed to Chhattisgarh today, while Enforcement Directorate stays silent on Adani Group. So if the country believes that this is absolutely the norm of the day, where election commission can be undermined, your independent agencies like ED, CBI, IT can be undermined, if judiciary can be in conflict at war and it should be undermined as per the government of India's latest round of conversations, then I have nothing more to argue about India. Forget my fate. It is about country's democracy's fate, about our constitution's fate. I have nothing to argue about my case here or our cases here. It is about the nation's case to make. Today it is happening with Shiva Sena. Tomorrow it could happen well within BJP itself. It could happen in the Congress. They might try this out in the Congress party. Day after it could be TMC. A few days later, YSRCP, BJD, all waiting. So are we fighting just for our cause? I'm sorry, we are fighting for the larger cause. And that is what Uddhav Thackeray has been talking about. We will fight from the grassroots again. We will come back victorious again because we have people's support. But can we let go of this total immorality that we are seeing from every side, where ED is brought in to split a party, CBI is brought in to split a party, and then Election Commission is wheeled in to give it its stamp of approval? And if you look at all the past cases, let's take the most recent Lok Jan Shakti Party case. It still hasn't reached its conclusion. The problem started much before us, but it hasn't reached a logical conclusion. Both sides are on a new symbol and different party names. And Election Commission hasn't reached a conclusion, but Election Commission was in a hurry to reach a conclusion because they know Maharashtra local elections are close by. And I can tell you, with all due respect to everybody and all the authorities who have chosen what they've done, people's will is supreme. And if elections were to be held today, the people of the city, of the state, will perhaps teach them the lesson in democracy.
Well, I appreciate you joining us here, Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi, and sharing your views on this very important subject that we have been talking about and following very closely at Mirror Now. No matter what may be the fate of the Uddhav faction, that is definitely going to be a historic judgment that is going to be having an impact on all political parties in recent times. Thank you for joining us here, Ms. Priyanka Chaturvedi. And taking this debate forward at Urban